1. The job. People always ask when it started, like there was one neat moment where everything broke. If I had to pick, I'd say it started with the email. I was a freelance photographer then, mostly landscapes and travel stuff. The kind of work where you sleep in your car more than your bed and live on gas station coffee and protein bars. A magazine wanted a long-form travel feature on haunted highways of the Southwest, with a focus on Route 191 and the back roads that cut through Navajo land. I said yes before I finished reading the contract. Good money. Creative freedom. 3 weeks on the road. And, this part feels important now, it came with a list of local lore I might want to photograph: ghost lights, an abandoned trading post, an old bridge where a truck full of sheep reportedly went off in the 1960s and still appears on foggy nights. And one line, practically throwaway, at the bottom. Local informant mentioned Skinwalker stories near Dine Land, might be interesting angle. Use discretion and respect. I remember laughing. Back then, Skinwalker meant YouTube creepypastas, shaky dashcam footage, and glitchy TikTok clips. Not what it means to me now. 2. The warning. I hit the road in late October, chasing that soft, dying light that makes every canyon look like something out of a dream. By day 3, I was in northeastern Arizona, skirting the edge of Navajo Nation. The land stretched forever here, low, scrubby brush and mesas that rose up like the backs of sleeping animals. The sky felt huge, like it could just swallow you if you stared too long. I stopped at a lonely gas station just off a 2-lane road. It had that faded look older than my grandparents, sun-bleached signs, a Pepsi machine that probably still took quarters, and a stray dog sleeping in the shade by the trash cans. Inside, it was cool and dim. A small radio hummed in the corner. Shelves of canned beans, dusty candy, and the sort of neon-colored drinks that could probably dissolve a nail. Behind the counter stood an older man, maybe in his 60s, with deep creases around his eyes and long gray hair tied back. His gaze was sharp but not unkind. The way he looked at me, it was like he'd already seen the whole story I was about to live. "Pump 3, I said, dropping a 20 on the counter. "And a coffee, if that's what we're calling it." He rang me up slowly, eyes lingering on the camera slung around my neck. "Tourist?" he asked. "Freelancer. Doing a photo story on spooky southwestern roads. Ghosts, legends, that kind of thing." He took a moment, too long of a moment, to respond. "Legends," he repeated. "You mean Navajo stories?" "Some," I said, shrugging. One of my contacts mentioned skinwalkers. I thought maybe I'd talk to locals, get some quotes, you know? The air changed. Not a breeze, not a sound, but something. The way you feel when you're talking too loud in a church. His jaw tightened. He slid my change back with a small metallic clink. "You should leave those stories alone," he said quietly. I smiled, trying to diffuse the tension. "I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Just want to listen, maybe." "That's the problem," he said. "You want to listen. You want to look. You don't know what looks back." The radio crackled softly behind us. A DJ laughed at something, the sound thin and far away. I cleared my throat. "I mean, they're just stories, right?" He didn't answer that. Instead, he asked, "Where are you camping tonight?" "Not sure. I'll probably just drive until sunset. Find a pullout or something." He shook his head. "Don't sleep on the side of the road. Not out there." "Why?" "Because," he said, and this time his eyes were hard as stone, "you might wake up." That should have scared me more than it did, but I was tired. Cocky. A city kid with a camera and a full tank of gas. He must have seen I wasn't taking it seriously, because he sighed and added, more gently, if you're going to be out there after dark, don't look at anything that calls your name. And don't answer if something you can't see asks you to let it in. Let it in where? I joked, lifting my hands. My car? My brain? He didn't smile. Not even a little. Anywhere, he said. 3. The shortcut. I drove out of there with that warning rattling around in my head, but like most warnings, it started to feel small in the rearview mirror, shrinking with distance. By dusk, I had a wide memory card full of photos, rusted-out cars, crumbling motels, a billboard half-eaten by the desert. I checked my phone, no service, then my map app, still tracking the blue line of the main highway. I should have stayed on that line. Instead, about an hour before full dark, I saw a smaller road branching off to the right. No sign. Just a strip of faded asphalt threading between low-rolling hills. My GPS blinked uncertainly, then recalculated. 10 miles shorter to the next town, the screen promised. I slowed at the turn. There was a feeling, a tiny, animal part of me that whispered no. But I was tired. The thought of saving 30 minutes felt like finding money in a coat pocket. I turned. The road narrowed quickly. No more painted lines. Just rough gray asphalt, cracked and repaired a dozen times. The land pressed closer, brush near the edges of the road, the occasional lone juniper like a sentinel. The sun went down fast. 1 minute it was a bright orange bruise on the horizon. 10 minutes later, it was gone, and the sky turned a deep, heavy blue. I flicked on my headlights. They reached only so far, a narrow tunnel through the dark. Beyond that, it was just shapes, hints of movement when the wind brushed the scrub. No houses. No other cars. Just me. I drove another 20 minutes before I realized two things at once. 1. My phone said no service. 2. 3. The GPS map was frozen, the little blue triangle spinning uselessly. 4. Great, I muttered. Perfect. I turned the radio on to break the silence. Static. A quick scan, and nothing but faint whispers of distant stations. I turned it off again. That was when I saw the figure. 4. The thing on the road. It stood in the beam of my headlights, maybe 50 yards ahead. Thin. Slightly hunched. At first I thought it was a deer, but it was too upright. I eased my foot onto the brake. It took a step toward me. My fingers tightened on the steering wheel. Okay, I said under my breath. Okay. It's a person. Someone walking. Don't freak out. But something in me was already freaking out. The figure stepped closer, into the full light. It was a man, or shaped like one. Skinny, with long arms that hung too low, almost reaching to the knees. His clothes were wrong, like they'd been slept in for weeks, dusty and torn. His hair looked matted, clumped together. And his face. At first I thought he didn't have one. Like it was just a blur of shadows. Then he lifted his head. I couldn't see eyes, not clearly, but I felt them. Like the gaze itself had weight. I stopped the car completely, engine idling. The man, if that's what he was, raised one hand. His fingers were long. Too long. Like the bones were stretched. He beckoned. The gas station guy's warning flashed in my brain. Don't look at anything that calls your name. But this thing didn't say my name. Didn't speak at all. My heart hammered. My rational brain scrambled for an explanation. Maybe he needed help. Maybe he was hurt. Maybe I was being an asshole, sitting in a warm car while some poor guy was stranded in the middle of nowhere. I cracked the window an inch. "Hey!" I called, my voice sounding thin even to me. "You okay?" He tilted his head, bird-like. Then he started walking toward the car. There was something wrong with the way he moved. It was like his joints were arguing about which direction to go. Jerky, but too fast. Every instinct in my body screamed. I threw the car into reverse and slammed my foot down. The engine roared. Gravel spat from under the tires as the car lurched backward. The figure broke into a run. Not a human run. Not even close. His limbs twisted, elbows flaring out, knees snapping too high. It was like watching a puppet dragged by invisible strings, yanked forward in ugly, unnatural bursts. He was fast. Shit, shit, shit. I yanked the wheel, almost overshooting the narrow road. The car fishtailed. Headlights swept the scrub, then snapped back to the asphalt. The figure disappeared from the beam. For a heartbeat, I thought I'd lost him. Then something slammed into the trunk. The whole car shook. A metallic crunch rang through the cabin. My head snapped forward, smacking the steering wheel. Pain flared. I tasted blood. The rearview mirror shook, the glass a blur. I saw movement, something crawling up the back of the car, fingers searching for purchase. I didn't think. I just slammed the car into drive and floored it. The engine screamed. The car shot forward. I heard another thud, then a scraping sound, like nails on metal. I drove blind, tears in my eyes, my breath coming in sharp, panicked gasps. The speedometer needle climbed. 30. 40. 50. Behind me, the scraping sound faded. I didn't stop. I didn't even slow down. I drove until the road itself seemed to vanish. 5. Lost. 1 second there was asphalt under my tires. The next, there was a jarring bump, and my headlights showed nothing but hard-packed dirt and scattered stones. I swore, yanking the wheel. The car jolted, suspension protesting. I slowed, finally, to keep from snapping an axle. The road had just ended. I reversed a little, trying to find where the pavement had gone, but there was nothing. Just rutted earth and the ghost of old tire tracks, disappearing into the darkness. I got out of the car. Immediately, the night hit me, cold and huge and full of sound. The wind hissed through the brush. Something small skittered nearby. I walked to the back of the car and aimed my phone's flashlight at the trunk. 3 long gouges ran from the bumper up toward the rear windshield. Deep. Clean. As if something with massive claws had dug in. My hand started to shake. No, I murmured to myself. No. That was a branch. A signpost. Something. You were freaking out. It's fine. It's... I heard it. Soft. From somewhere out in the dark. Hey. My name, in a low voice. I spun, flashlight beam slicing through empty space. Nothing. Just the car, the dirt road, the night. The voice came again, from the other side. Hey. You okay? What happened? It sounded like, my brother. Same casual tone, same little upward lilt at the end. But my brother was in Denver, 400 miles away. I stood very still. "Alex?" I said, my voice small. There was a pause. Then the voice laughed, almost right, but not quite. The rhythm was wrong. The warmth was off by a few degrees. "Yeah, idiot," it said. "It's me. Come on. You okay out there? You hit something?" The gas station man's words echoed again, louder this time. "Don't look at anything that calls your name. And don't answer if something you can't see asks you to let it in." I realized I'd already broken half of that rule. My breathing picked up. "I'm fine," I said, backing toward the driver's side door. I'm going to go now." "Wait," the voice said. It was closer, too close. I fumbled with the door handle, climbed into the car, and slammed the door. Something tapped on the rear window. Not hard. Just testing. My skin crawled. "Open up," the voice said, muffled now, right behind me. "I just want to talk. Just let me in, okay? It's cold out here." I didn't turn around. I stared straight ahead, at the dirt track illuminated by my headlights. My hand shook as I turned the key. The engine caught. The tapping stopped. For a heartbeat, there was nothing. Then, right against my ear, inside the car, a whisper. "Wrong road." I screamed and stomped the gas. The car lurched forward, bouncing over the rutted track, headlights jittering wildly. I didn't look in the mirror. I didn't listen. I only kept my hands locked on the wheel and my foot down. Somewhere behind me, something laughed. 6, the house. I don't know how long I drove. Time got weird out there. It felt like hours, but when I glanced at the dashboard clock, only 20 minutes had passed. My phone battery dropped steadily, screen still showing no service. The dirt track narrowed, then split. I picked a direction at random. Left, then right, then left again. The tracks turned to nearly nothing. I kept going until the fear shifted into something worse, exhaustion. Finally, mercifully, I saw a shape ahead in my headlights. A house. It sat alone, a low, square building with a small porch and a single light burning above the front door. The yard was more dirt than anything, with a few rusted appliances half sunk into the ground. A truck sat off to the side, covered with dust but solid-looking. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating. Then the porch light flickered, and I felt hot tears sting my eyes. I pulled up slowly and killed the engine. The sudden silence roared in my ears. For a moment, I just sat there, hand still welded to the steering wheel, heart pounding. The house looked normal. Ordinary. Which, after the last hour, felt unreal in itself. I forced myself out of the car. The air was cooler now, the sky clear and full of sharp stars. I walked up the 3 wooden steps to the porch, each creak echoing in the quiet. I hesitated, then knocked. For a long time, too long, nothing happened. Then the porch light flickered again, and the door opened a crack. An old woman peered out at me. Her hair was long and silver, braided down one side. Deep lines framed her mouth and eyes, but those eyes were sharp, like the gas station man's, only harder. "Nizanigo Shiryadi," she said first, almost automatically, then switched to English. "What do you want?" I'm sorry to bother you," I stammered. "I got lost. My GPS died, and the road just kind of disappeared, and there was this guy. I stopped myself, realizing how crazy I sounded. I don't know where I am. Can I use a phone? Maybe get directions back to the highway? She studied me in silence for what felt like a full minute. Then she opened the door wider. Come inside, she said. Hurry. Don't stand there. Relief flooded me. I stepped into the house, and the warmth hit me like a blanket. The interior was simple but homey. Worn couches, a low table, shelves with framed photos. The air smelled like sage and something cooking the beans, maybe. The door shut behind me with a heavy finality. I turned to thank her, and saw that she was looking not at me, but past me, at the closed door. She murmured something under her breath in Navajo, words I didn't understand but felt in my bones. Then she looked at me properly. You're not from here, she said. No. I'm just passing through. I was on 191, but my GPS. Those things don't work out there at night, she said. Not the way you think. She walked to the window and pulled the curtain aside just a fraction, peeking out. Her jaw tightened. She let the curtain fall back into place. You shouldn't have taken that road. I swallowed. I noticed. She turned to face me again. Did something follow you? The question was so blunt it knocked the air from my lungs. I don't know, I said. Which was true, technically. There was this guy in the road. And then, something hit my car. And I kept hearing. My voice cracked. She nodded slowly, like I'd confirmed something she already suspected. Sit, she said, gesturing vaguely toward the couch. You're shaking. I realized I was. My whole body trembled with delayed adrenaline. I sat. She moved around the small kitchen area, putting water on the stove. Every so often, she glanced at the door or the window. Not out of habit, out of calculation. Listening. What's your name? She asked. Eli. I'm Anna, she said. You're on Navajo land, Eli. You know that? I figured I was near, but... You're in it, she said. Deep enough that if something decided to play with you out there, you wouldn't find your way back alone. My mouth went dry. What was that thing? I asked quietly. Her eyes hardened. We don't say the word, she replied. Not at night. Not in my house. But... She cut me off with a look. You people, she said, not cruelly, just tiredly, you want stories. You want thrills. You don't understand that some stories have teeth. The kettle whistled. She poured hot water into a mug, added something from a jar, then brought it to me. Drink, she said. It will help. I took a cautious sip. It was bitter but warming. Outside, the wind picked up, brushing against the house like fingers. Something scratched lightly at the siding. Anna's head snapped toward the sound. 7. The voice at the door. The scratching stopped. For a few seconds, there was only the wind. Then, from just outside the door, a man's voice. Hello? Is anybody home? I froze. The voice sounded normal. Calm. Maybe mid-30s, slightly accented. Could have been a rancher, a traveler. Anyone. Anna didn't move. The voice called again, a bit louder. Hello? Sorry to bother you. My car broke down. I saw your light. My heart leapt. It was exactly what I had done. Same scenario. Just reversed. It sounds like somebody who needs help, I whispered. Anna turned her head slowly to look at me. There was no softness in her gaze now. Just a sharp, appraising edge. That's not a somebody, she said. The voice knocked. 3 polite raps, ma'am? Sir? Please. I'm freezing out here. The sound came from the door, clear as day. But when I looked at the tiny gap where the curtain didn't quite meet in the window, I saw no shadow. No shape. Just the porch. The night. I swallowed. How do you know? I asked. Because if it were a man, she said quietly, he would have called out Yaddy first. And he would have stayed by his truck, not come to the door of a house he doesn't recognize in the dark like a coyote sniffing around a pen. The voice changed. It was subtle, but I heard it, like the pitch slid a fraction too high, or the words were being pulled like taffy. Please, it said again. Let me in. I just need to come in for a minute. I'm lost. I'm so cold. My chest tightened. Because now the voice sounded like mine. Every syllable. Every cadence. Don't listen, Anna said. Don't answer. It can't come in unless it's invited. I stared at the door. The voice, my voice, went on, pleading, fragile. Please, Anna. It's me. Eli. I'm hurt. Please open the door. Why are you being mean? The mug shook in my hands. I'm here, I whispered weakly, touching my chest. I'm here. It knows that, she said. That's why it's angry. The next knock wasn't polite. It rattled the frame. Dust drifted from the ceiling. My skin crawled. Anna, the voice hissed, animated now, the distortion obvious. Let me in. I'm so hungry. Something heavy slammed into the door. The wood shuddered. She stood, back straight, eyes hard. Don't look at it, she told me. Don't speak to it. Not a word. The pounding continued, accompanied now by a low, guttural sound, halfway between a snarl and a laugh. Then, from the window behind us, Eli. My head snapped toward the sound before I could stop myself. The glass showed only darkness. But pressed faintly against it, just for a second, I saw the outline of a hand. Long fingers. Too many joints. I squeezed my eyes shut. Anna began to speak in Navajo again, the words low and steady. I didn't understand them, but they felt like weight. Like a line drawn in the sand. The thing circled the house. I heard it move, no footsteps, just a subtle shift in the air, like mass sliding across the outside world. It scratched at the walls, the roof, the windows. At one point, it started laughing. Not a human laugh. A mishmash of sounds, my voice, the gas station man's, my brother's, a stranger's, all stacked and distorted until it made something wrong and terrible. Anea, it crooned, too sweet. You're so rude. We just want to look at him. Just a little. He took the wrong road. That means he's ours. She raised her voice over the noise, her chant growing stronger, more insistent. The hair on my arm stood up. My chest felt tight, like the house itself was shrinking. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The pressure eased. The sounds died. Silence. The only noise left was the clock ticking on the wall and my own ragged breathing. Slowly, Anna exhaled. We're not safe yet, she said. But it can't cross the line. Not if we don't let it. What line? I whispered. She gestured vaguely to the windows, the doors, the corners of the room. Prayers, she said. And other things. You don't need to know. You just need to follow what I tell you. I nodded numbly. She sat back down, her shoulders sinking, the effort of what she'd just done finally catching up with her. You brought its attention, she said. Now we have to wait it out. How long? I asked. She looked toward the small window, where a sliver of sky showed. Until sunrise, she said. If it gives up. What if it doesn't? She met my eyes. Then we hope it finds something else more interesting. 8 stories with teeth. We stayed in that living room all night. Every time exhaustion tugged at my eyelids, something happened outside to yank me back, a scrape, a whisper, a low thump. Sometimes it would go quiet for 20 minutes, long enough for my guard to drop, then a sudden bang would make me jump out of my skin. At some point, around what must have been 2 or 3 in the morning, it started mimicking. That was the worst part. First, it tried Anna's voice. It got the tone mostly right, but the words were wrong, like it had learned English out of order. Eli, it said from just outside the kitchen wall. Come help me with the blood. Then it giggled, a high, wrong sound. I gripped the edge of the couch until my knuckles hurt. Later, it tried my mother's voice. She kept asking me to open the door, saying she'd driven all this way to surprise me. The past and present collapsed in on each other. My brain knew it was impossible, but my body reacted anyway. My eyes stung. My throat tightened. Don't listen, Anna reminded me each time. It remembers what scares you. How does it know? I asked, my voice shaking. She hesitated. It's old, she said finally. Older than the fence lines and the roads. It comes when people are weak, or careless, or cruel. Maybe it saw something in you it liked. Maybe you were just in its path. That's not an answer. There aren't many answers for things like this, she said. Just rules. Rules like what? She thought for a long moment. The thing outside whispered to itself, circling. The house creaked softly. Don't whistle at night, she said. Don't talk about it if you can help it. Don't look at it. Don't take what doesn't belong to you, and don't go where you're not invited. I didn't know, I said defensively. I just took a road. The GPS said. She cut me off with a small, sad smile. That's what you people always say. The GPS said. Like a little machine in your hand knows more than the land under your feet. She shook her head. Those things lie out here. Or maybe they tell the truth, and you just don't understand the language. Outside, something scratched along the roof, slow and deliberate. I swallowed. Have you seen it before? The thing out there. Her eyes clouded. Once, she said. When I was a girl. My cousin and I were walking home from a dance. We stayed too late. The old people always said not to be out after midnight, but we were young and stupid. Thought we were safe because we were together. She paused. We heard our grandfather's voice calling from the arroyo. Said he'd fallen. Needed help. The thing outside laughed softly. It was listening. We went down there, she continued, ignoring it. We knew we shouldn't. We knew he was supposed to be at home, asleep. But it sounded just like him. He kept saying he was hurt. Then he couldn't walk. She stared at her hands. We never saw what it really looked like, she said. We only saw the eyes. My cousin ran toward them. I grabbed her, screamed, pulled her back. Something moved in the dark, fast. Too fast. Like it was made of shadows and broken bones. It laughed. Just like that thing is laughing now. It took her? I asked quietly. No, she said. But it took something from her. After that night, she wasn't ever the same. She stopped talking to people. Stopped going out at night at all. Sometimes she'd sit in the corner and cry for no reason. She said it still called her name in her dreams. I'm sorry, I whispered. So am I, she said. Because now it remembers me. And now it knows your name, too. Outside, the voice, my voice again, called. Anea. He looks tasty. I like his eyes. He's already scared. Just push him out. We'll take turns. My stomach turned. You keep saying it, I said. But the guy at the gas station said, I caught myself before repeating the word. Anna's gaze sharpened. You met Ben? She asked. The older guy with long hair, near the highway? She nodded. That's my brother. My jaw dropped. Seriously? We're not as spread out as you think, she said. You don't survive out here by being alone all the time. He must have known you were heading this way. He tried to warn me, I admitted. I didn't listen. Her expression softened just slightly. Most of you don't, she said. You think our stories are charming. Or scary in a safe way. You forget we've been here a long time. We've seen things the highways don't show you. The night outside pressed against the walls. Do you believe it's real? I asked. I mean, I know what I saw. What I heard. But maybe there's some other explanation. Like a predator. Or a guy who's sick in the head. Or the thing outside scraped a long, slow line along the side of the house, as if to punctuate the question. I don't care if you believe it's real, she said calmly. It believes you are. That's enough. 9. The longest night. Somewhere between the endless circling and the steady, low chanting, I must have dozed off. I woke to silence. My neck hurt from sleeping upright. My mouth was dry. The mug on the table was empty. For a few precious seconds, I felt normal. Just a guy in an unfamiliar living room after a long drive. Then memory rushed back. Anna sat in the same spot as before, shoulders hunched, eyes closed. Her lips moved silently. Is it gone? I whispered. She opened one eye, then looked toward the window. A faint gray light seeped around the edges of the curtain. Almost, she said. It doesn't like the sun. But don't be fooled. It doesn't burn up and disappear. It just waits better in the dark. I listened. Nothing outside. No scratching. No whispers. I don't hear anything, I said. That doesn't mean anything, she replied. But you're safer now than you were 3 hours ago. I stood slowly, muscles protesting. The temptation to look out the window was almost overwhelming. Don't, she said sharply, without even turning her head. Not yet. I froze. Why not? I asked. Because it might be standing right there, hoping you're stupid enough to open the curtain and meet its eyes before the sun finishes coming up, she said. You've been lucky so far. Don't ruin it now. I sat back down. Minutes passed, measured by the ticking clock and the light slowly brightening around the edges of the curtains. At some point, Anna stood and went to the kitchen, moving stiffly, like every joint hurt. She poured me another mug of that bitter tea. "You'll leave when the sun is fully up," she said. "Not before." "Will you be okay?" I asked. "After I go?" She gave a small shrug. "Been okay this long," she said. "Besides, it's more interested in you right now. New toy." I swallowed. "Great." She studied me for a moment. "When you go," she said, "you'll drive straight back to the main road. I'll tell you how. You won't stop. You won't pull over for anyone. Even if you see a car on the side of the road. Even if somebody flags you down. Understand?" "That's harsh," I said. "What if someone really needs help?" Her gaze didn't waver. "They'll have to call someone else," she said. "You don't owe the road anything more. You don't owe it anything more." I nodded slowly. "And another thing," she added. "You'll forget the way here. You won't write it down. You won't try to come back. You won't send people looking for the Skinwalker lady on the res. I'm not your tourist attraction. I'm not here to be a character in your magazine story." Guilt stabbed me. I won't," I said. "I swear. I won't put your name, your brother's name, or where this is. I'll change details. I'll just say it's a story." Her mouth curved in a humorless half-smile. "That's what it is," she said. "A story with teeth." Outside, the first ray of direct sunlight pierced the horizon, thin and pale. Anna straightened. "Okay," she said. "Now you can look." 10. The tracks. I stood slowly and walked to the window. My hand shook as I pinched the curtain and pulled it back an inch. The world outside looked normal. The sky was pale blue, the sun just cresting the distant hills. The yard was exactly as I'd seen it the night before, dirt packed hard by years of wind, with scattered debris, an old washing machine, some tires, a rusted swing frame. But the house. All along the siding, deep gouges marred the wood. Ragged lines that ran from just above the ground to just under the eaves, spaced out like something had been pacing, circling, dragging claws as it went. On the porch railing, a handprint. I stared at it. At first, it didn't register as anything but a smear of dirt. Then my brain caught up. It wasn't quite human. The fingers were too long. The palm too narrow. It looked almost like a coyote paw stretched out wrong, forced into something upright and wrong. A small sound escaped my throat. "See?" Anna said softly behind me. "Sometimes the stories leave proof. Most times they don't." I let the curtain fall. "Why me?" I asked. "Really? Why did it come after me?" She was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "Because you looked at it." "That's it?" "That's enough," she said. "You opened the door with your eyes. It opened the rest. Now it knows you. Maybe it forgets you in a week. Maybe it waits 20 years and then shows up outside your window when you're older and weaker and you've convinced yourself it was all just stress and bad lighting. I can't tell you. That's not my part in the story." I felt suddenly, crushingly tired. "How do I stop it?" I asked. "You don't," she said. "You live your life. You respect where you go. You listen when people tell you don't. You stop chasing things that don't want to be photographed." Her eyes softened. "And you stop saying its name for fun like a game." I nodded. "I'm not Navajo," I said. "Does that matter?" The rules, I mean. The land doesn't care what you are, she said. It just cares how you behave. She walked me to the door. Remember, she said as she opened it. Straight back to the main road. No stopping. No talking. If you hear your name. I don't answer, I finished for her. She nodded. Good. I stepped out onto the porch. The sun felt thin but real on my face. I walked to my car, noting the new scratches crisscrossing the trunk, the roof, even along the side. My hand shook as I unlocked the door and slid in. Before I started the engine, I looked back. Anna stood on the porch, one hand raised in a small wave. Her face was unreadable. The porch light was still on, though the day was brightening. Thank you, I called through the open window. She inclined her head but said nothing. I turned the key. As I pulled away, I glanced at my phone. One bar of service blinked into existence. A text came through from my brother. Brother, 1:42 a.m. Got this weird feeling, you okay? Another buzzed in right after. Brother, 6:11 a.m. Seriously, dude, text me back when you see this. I typed with shaking fingers. I'm okay. I'll call you when I hit the highway. As I drove, Anna's directions replayed in my mind. Take the track till the lone juniper. Turn right. You'll see the telephone pole with the busted crossbeam. Go left. When you see the rocks that look like three old women sitting, you're close. The road will find you. It sounded vague. Like something from a folk tale. But the land seemed to arrange itself around her words. I saw the juniper, the busted pole, the rock formation that did look eerily like three huddled figures. And then, suddenly, the dirt gave way to cracked asphalt. The main road spread out before me, solid and wide, like it had been waiting there the whole time. I could have cried from relief. As I merged onto it, my radio crackled to life, picking up a station mid-song. My GPS pinged, recalculating. The world snapped back into something familiar. For a moment, I almost convinced myself it had all been some weird, shared nightmare with an old woman in a lonely house. Then I checked my rearview mirror. On the horizon, far behind me, something moved along the dirt track. I couldn't make out details, just a tall, thin shape, walking not quite right, stopping occasionally to turn its head toward the road. Toward me. My blood turned to ice. I didn't slow down. I didn't squint to see better. I didn't zoom my camera in for one last shot. I did exactly what I'd been told. I drove. 11 after. I never turned that story in. At least, not the way they wanted. I wrote about abandoned motels, ghost lights, strange radio interference in the desert. I sent photos of empty roads and forgotten towns. I gave them what they'd asked for, spooky southwestern highways, but left out the real teeth. I didn't mention Anna or her brother or the scratches on my car. I didn't talk about the voice that still, sometimes, in the middle of the night, sounds like my brother calling from the hallway when I know I'm alone. I sold the car a month later. The guy who bought it pointed to the deep gouges on the trunk and said, "Damn, dude, what happened here? Bear?" "Something like that," I answered. He laughed. I didn't. I changed some habits. I stopped whistling at night. Stopped driving alone on strange roads after dark unless I absolutely had to. When locals told me not to go somewhere, I listened. Most nights are normal. I make dinner. I answer emails. I edit photos. I pretend that if I don't talk about it, it can't touch me. And then, on bad nights, like last week, when the wind outside my apartment howled just right, I'll wake up around 3:13 a.m. Every time, that's the number on the clock. I won't know why I woke. I'll lie there, holding my breath. Sometimes, from the hallway, I'll hear it. Soft. My brother's voice. Or my mother's. Or the gas station man's. Or Anna's. Or my own, turned inside out. Hey, it says. And every time, every single time, I remember the rules and do the only thing I can. I don't answer. I don't move. I let the night pass, minute by scraping minute, until the first gray light touches the edges of my curtains and the shadows lose their teeth. Then I get up. Make coffee. Pretend I slept fine. Because that's the thing nobody tells you about real-life horror stories. They don't end with a final scream or a clever last line. They end with you still here. Still breathing. Still pretending that if you just keep going, maybe the thing that saw you on the wrong road one night will get bored and move on. Maybe it will forget. Maybe. Until the next time you're driving late, and the GPS says there's a faster way, and some little voice in the back of your mind whispers, "Don't." And you have to decide, right then, whether this is the night you listen. Or the night you end up on someone else's porch, knocking on the door of a stranger's house, saying, "Please, let me in."